It's not about having patience. It's about when the opportunity presents itself. But I think in the end, this stuff all goes back to relationships and being able to have dialogue with Jim for several years. And sometimes we would talk about just what was going on in the business, not necessarily this. I think it was a key factor. But these things are more about when the opportunities present themselves, because it takes two. And I know that gives the fans angst, but that really is the truth of the matter. And I think that it took time to develop it to this point to be able to make it a reality.
Tim told us before this heated up, whatever it was 2 weeks ago, that you were always talking to Jim Delaney. I'd ask you, always talking to Jim Delaney. How often did those conversations take place? And was it like literally every day, or was it 3 times a week? I mean,
I think it depends on the time of year during that process. But in the past year, it's been every couple of weeks.
Okay.
At certain times it was every week. At certain times it was once a month. But it was frequent. And like I said, Jim, I met him when I was a young TV guy, and I watched him in action and got to know him, and it's just we were able to talk very frankly with each other about what was going on in the business, and I think that helped us cut through the get-to-know-you phase of all this stuff. Because in the end, when you sit down and talk about these things, I think it's as much about institutional fit as it is about people fit. Because you know your room as a commissioner, you know the ADs, you know the presidents. You got to make sure you're adding additive value to the room and something that's not going to be disruptive.
And is there any way to describe for people just what this does mean from an athletic standpoint? I mean, is there a tangible way to do that?
Yeah, there probably is, and honestly, I'm sure that'll occur to me sometime, in the future where I can crystallize it. But I think what it means is it means a lot of things. It's the biggest concern fans and constituents have is stability, and this secures our stability, in athletics forever. The financial resources go, without saying. I think the Big Ten has done a great job building resources for their schools that allow them to provide a different kind of experience, and also to run self-sufficient departments where surpluses are an investment in the university, and that's the dream I always planned to get to when I came here. The other piece is the exposure. I mean, recruiting is as much about exposure as it is anything else. And football has the visibility, but in men's and women's lacrosse, wrestling, soccer, I mean, this provides them a platform where they're going to be able to, I believe, recruit more effectively and be able to bring more good people to the programs.
I know Tom and Sarge love the recruiting talk, so I'll ask one more with football.
Yeah.
You did the football stuff when between a transition with Kyle and Greg.
Yeah.
Did you hear conference stuff during that point from kids?
I did. I heard it from almost every kid.
And how did you handle that?
I told every kid the same thing I told you guys, and that as things continue to change, I know that sometimes I put a statement out, and I'm sure it got viewed with the same snickers that maybe you guys had, but I told kids the same thing. I said, we have great assets here, and this is not the end of what's going on in expansion. I firmly believed it was the beginning, and I don't think this is the end either, but the assets that we possess are going to put us in a great place. And that was all I really could tell kids. I wasn't going to lie to them and say we're going to be here, we're going to be there. There were rumors we were telling recruits that we're going to end up in a certain kind. It's not true. I was honest with them that I felt strongly that knowing the place and knowing our assets that we were going to have a great opportunity at some point. It was just a matter of timing.
Tim, as confident as you were, you're right, you've said over and over you would end up someplace good. Throughout this process, especially with the ups and downs of the Big East, there had to have been moments of frustration when maybe things didn't happen as quickly as you have liked to go somewhere else, or within the Big East. I mean, there had to have been some of those moments, right?
I wouldn't say frustrating. Exhausting maybe is a better word. Because at certain times when certain things happened, I remember nights in my office talking to athletic directors at other schools and other conferences at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning, where everybody is trying to share information with each other to figure out what was going to happen next. But in the end, it was more exhausting than frustrating, but I just felt all along very, very strongly that all the things we've built in athletics, coupled with the profile of this place, that we would not be left out under any circumstance.
And just to piggyback on that, I understand that you have your thing done,
yeah.
But you mentioned this might not be the end of it. Do you get any sense of where things might be going? Are we looking at another chaotic time in college athletics like we were about a year or so ago when it seemed like anything was possible?
I don't know, Ralph. I mean, I would tell you that I've just been so in a bunker on trying to get this thing done, and I know that there's speculation over all the things that might happen next, and I know that always occurs, but I really couldn't tell you. I mean, that's so much in the hands of people so far removed from me. But, I do think that the business has always been changing, and I don't think it's ever going to stop changing.
What have the last 2 weeks been like for you? Just describe days, and describe how much work you put into it.
Not a lot of sleep, not a lot of time at home, but I would put the football coaching search and this whole process as, 1 and 1A of two of the most fun things I think I've ever done in my career. And exhausting, frustrating, whatever you want to say. I don't think I've ever been more fulfilled professionally than I have been, during those two things. And in the end, that's all you really can ask for from your career, is something that engages you at such a level that, I hadn't slept, but I'm laying in bed in the hotel last night wide awake. Like, that feeling is not something that you can just replicate because you feel like it. It's got to be something that affects you in a different way. But it's been chaotic and frustrating and exhausting and a hell of a lot of fun.
Got time for two more? Was there a point when you knew, or what was the point in the last 2 weeks when you said, it's done? Wow, this is done.
Today at 1 o'clock. Seriously, no, today, look, and I'm not, that's just me. That's not me trying to be coy with you. For me, and Jay as my witness would tell you that everybody said, it's done, it's done, it's done. And my whole thing was until the final piece of paper that says it's done from the authority that can say it's done is there, that I never wanted to convince myself that it was. But, I think as things started to slip out over the last 48 hours, we had a really good feeling that we were on the 5-yard line going in.
What was your conversation with Mike Varesco like today? Share a little bit of that. And you expect an awkward transition in the next?
I mean, I'm not expecting that. At the same time, I know transitions are always a little bumpy. We're going to try to be as productive as we possibly can. The conversation with Mike was great. I go way back with Mike. I've known him for years. We're friends. It certainly wasn't an easy call for me to make. But Mike is a great guy, and he was as professional as he could have been on the phone. He was great to me. We had a nice conversation. I explained where we were at. He certainly understood that it was coming. I know he spoke to Commissioner Delaney as well, but Mike Varesco is a class guy. He really is, and I'm rooting for him.
Tim, and I just said one more, but he gave me clearance for another. Have you talked to all your head coaches and met with all of them to go through things with them yet, or has it not been time?
Most, yes, and others will at 4:45 today. But at the same time, given the confidentiality and the nature of the confidentiality, it was only a whole lot. There's only so much I really could share.
But in terms of the message, what will it be like for you to deliver that message? It's a follow-up.
It'll be a great. So far, it's been a great feeling across the board. Not only from the grassroots level up through the administration, our coaches, everybody's really excited about the stability that we're moving into and all the things that this can mean.